This excerpt is from my recent novel, The Coronation. It's set on a Junker estate near Königsberg in East Prussia, a now defunct Baltic state. The excerpt is from chapter 19, entitled A Servant of the Adler, in which Adler means eagle in German. What you need to know about this excerpt is that Marion is the Countess von Adler, and it's set during the 7 Years' War in 1760. The Russian army has invaded East Prussia and stolen the Countess's harvest, and she is terrified that her people on the estate will starve during the harsh winter. Ian Fermor, who is also mentioned, is the local pastor who appears to her in her dream, and Alexander is the night watchman. The excerpt begins as follows. Marion fell into a deep sleep. There was another knock at her door. This time she got up to see who it was. As she approached the door, it seemed to swing open of its own accord. "Ian Fermor, what do you want?" she said. Fermor held a lantern low down. It lit his face, accentuating his curved aquiline nose, high cheekbones and thin, pointed chin. "Come with me," he said. It was odd because, without a second thought, she did exactly that. She also wondered why she didn't seem to have any choice in the matter. That was not what frightened her the most, though. She followed him out of the door, along the gallery corridor and down the spiral staircase of the castle. She noticed that her feet didn't seem to touch the ground. She glided like an eagle, like when they were hovering in the sky and had an eye for their prey. As she walked, she tried to hear the sound of her own footsteps, and there were none. She was walking on thin air. That was what frightened her the most. "What's happening?" she asked. Where are we going?" "Are you hungry?" "Yes, of course, we're all hungry, but—" "Then follow me." Fermor's voice was hoarse, like he had a heavy cold or a sore throat. "I'll satisfy your hunger," he added, which sounded more like a threat than a promise. Again she felt fearful of the man's ambiguous intent and his essential power over her will. She could do nothing to alter it, and drifted along after him. The lantern lit the way ahead. The tranche of light followed Fermor like it was coming from his face, like his face was the light. He led her out of the north-facing door of the castle. Snow was falling from the sky like milk-white diamonds, sparkling in the palpable stillness of the night. They travelled, or floated, she wasn't quite sure what they were doing, along the front of the castle until they reached the 2 barns where the meagre supplies of remaining wheat, seed and corn were stored. Alexander was hunched in the corner of the doorway. Some guard he was. He was snoring. He could have woken the dead if there'd been any around. None of that seemed to matter, because she noticed she was still wearing her nightgown and wondered why her feet and hands didn't feel the biting cold. Now she came to think about it, she didn't feel anything. No cold, no warmth, no sensations at all. It was even more curious than that Fermor, leading the way, left no footprints in the snow. He eased them towards a narrow alley that ran between the walls of the 2 barns. Despite the protection afforded from the elements, the snowstorm had deposited a light dusting in the alleyway. It was secluded. She hesitated. What might he do to her? "No, stop, I can't go any further," she said. "Tell me what this is about." "I told you I'll satisfy your hunger," he said, turning to speak to her. His face resembled a great bird, his hooked nose and large staring eyes lending him the appearance of a hawk. No, it was more like an eagle. "Why are you doing this?" "You help me, Your Excellency. I want to help you," he replied. "You are one of us." "One of whom?" "A servant of the Adler, the eagle, the twin-headed eagle." I'm an Adler, she said, and the twin-headed eagle is on my husband's coat of arms. Is that what you mean? If you believe that's all there is to it, go back to your warm bed, he said. If you have an inkling of a greater purpose, then follow me. Higher service is always freely given. He glided on without waiting for an answer, leaving her alone and swathed in the night. She felt compelled to follow. Besides, the Adler had encouraged her at the moment of crisis, when she was in the Columbine Inn. Fermor held the lantern out in front of him. Its light seemed to shine through him, like he was transparent or made of air. It was easy for her to see the way ahead. When they were about 2/3 of the way down the alley, he stopped and said, I've brought you here so you can see it for yourself. You need to remember this place. He pointed to the ground and said, This is it, see here. See what? This patch of grass. What of it, she asked. It has no snow in it. I can see that, and... Before he could reply, the end of the alley from which they had come was filled with a swishing light and sounds of alarm. Oi! Who's that? Someone down there, show yourselves, or I'm coming to get you. Alexander had woken up. Quick, Fermor said, follow me. And he floated up above into the air, above the barns and over the snowy landscape, as if it was the most natural thing in the world to hover around in a body lighter than air. She glided through the walls of the castle, and was soon drifting into the safe confines of her bedroom. Somewhere along the way, Fermor must have slipped away into the night, and she found herself back in her physical body and in her bed.